we're going to be rolling out each half separately. So I'm going to divide the dough, and just to make sure nothing dries out, at this point I'm just going to cover each with some plastic wrap. Well, at this point, we're going to put our food processor back on here. Or actually, it's the work bowl of the food processor. Let me go reclaim my blade. Now this is not absolutely clean. It doesn't matter. The little bit of dough that gets on the raisins is not going to create a problem. Now what I'm going to do is to pulse this. I want to chop the raisins finely enough so that I'll be able to spread them, but we really don't want a raisin paste. I now have a chopped raisin filling. Okay. And if I take the blade out so I don't cut myself, I can leave it in here and avoid messing up a bowl. All right, at this point, let me clear the decks since we don't need these little guys anymore. Okay, and we're going to roll out our dough. Now the tricky part of making these is that you're going to roll out one layer, fill it, and then you need another layer of dough. The dough is about as fragile as a pie crust dough, which means if you want to roll it out really thin, you're going to run into some problem transferring it. So here's where I've tried to work out a way that makes sense, that lets us get the dough thin enough so that we get the crisp cookie, but can still be managed and transferred onto the baking sheets. I've used 2 baking sheets, and I've put a sheet of silicone treated baking parchment on each, which I prefer to greasing. It's neater and I think gives better control, and you can buy the silicone paper actually in bulk and have almost a lifetime supply. Alright, so I'm going to roll this out to a rectangle that measures about 9 by 12. It looks like I'll need a little bit of flour on this. We don't want to incorporate much extra flour. On the other hand, we don't want things to stick. So sprinkling a little flour is never a bad idea. Rolling up your sleeves so that you don't roll them in is also not a bad idea. I will never win the Neat Cook Award, but on the other hand, things are reasonably sanitary. Alright, let's see. So we're going to aim for about 9 by 12, which actually is going to be fairly thin. Alright, so it looks like we are now about, oops, not quite, 10 and a half. 7, still need some more. That was optimism on my part, or wishful thinking. Does not have to be exact, but I figured this is a pretty good place to start. Okay, now what we're going to do is to put on the raisin filling. Now the original recipe for this involved rolling out the whole dough, putting the filling on, and then putting more dough on top. If you did it in a pan with sides, you couldn't really get it thin enough. And if you did it on a sheet, it was difficult to transfer. So we're going to do this in strips. At this point, I'm going to take my raisin filling. Let's take a nice big spoon for this. I'm going to put a strip of raisin filling and divide it approximately in half. If you really wanted to, you could scale this out and get an absolute half. But these are really not that kind of pastry. Alright, we're going to spoon this on and spread. So now we have our dough covered half of it with the raisin filling. What we're going to do is gently flip this over. Let me go clean my hands, be right back in a minute. Okay, now we don't care if there are little bits of raisin showing. The original sunshine cookie had bits of raisin showing, so I'm using that as my gold standard. Alright, now I need a little more flour. I feel it's a little moist under here. So I'm going to sprinkle a little more flour on this because I do not want it to stick at this point. And I'm going to roll this out until it is about 6 inches by 18 inches. Alright, so we're going to roll it this way. And we're also going to roll it lengthwise. Do I have 18 inches here? No, I'm going to have to do it this way. Right. What I'm trying to do is to create a more cracker-like cookie. I want to get the dough thin so that when it bakes it will crisp up. And I think this is probably about the best way to do it.